Well, here we are. It's Sunday morning and TalkTV presenter Russell Quirk is here to look at the Sunday. Well, here we are. It's Sunday morning and TalkTV presenter Russell Quirk is here to look at the Sunday papers. Do you know what? I thought I might just quickly whip through the front pages because that's quite useful, isn't it, for people to know?
And quite varied for once, actually. Lots of different stories on the front.
In no particular order, the Daily Star. A pain in the bun. Dumping donut on its way. This is about really bad weather.
The quality can only go up from here, Penny, I think, can't it, now that you've decided to pick that one out in the first instance?
Well, it's never mind the beast from the east, it says, or the troll from Trondheim. Britain is going to be hit by a new weather phenomenon. Homer's donut.
Yes, this is some weather phenomenon that they've named, which they do now, apparently.
Is it going to get cold? That's all I want to know.
Yes, it is.
For a brief period of time.
I can't cope in my 120-year-old house that is just like draft fest.
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure how they kind of join the dots to donuts. But anyway, buy the Star and all will be revealed.
Exactly. Do you not
other papers are available.
Other papers are available.
Other much better papers are available.
Do you not find that if you wander around with a hot water bottle almost applied to various areas, you do keep a bit warmer?
Well, I shall try that. I mean, it must.
Do you have heating, you two, then? Are you doing the whole climate thing and turned it off? You've ripped out your boilers already.
I've turned mine down, and I do look like a giant marshmallow with a hot water bottle.
My house is like a sauna. All the time.
Here's the Sunday Express. Sunday Express. Rishi at war over migrants. Angry civil servants vowed to scupper PM's plan to tackle asylum crisis.
We just need to get rid of civil servants.
Well, it needs reform. That's
reforming. I don't know whether could you get rid of civil servants? Would that be a good idea? This is the front of the Mail on Sunday. King to Welby. I want Harry at coronation. Archbishop asked to help resolve crisis. Duke keeping titles could be part of deal, but William is resisting the
I
pact.
can't believe that's the front page, frankly. But anyway.
What were you expecting?
Anything that wasn't just about Harry and Meghan and the royals. I mean, there are people dying in the world of not being able to eat or being too cold, and Ukraine.
But you can virtually guarantee that circulation goes up.
I know.
Whenever they're on the front page. You do know that that's how it works, right? The Sunday Telegraph. Hospitals at home plan to save the NHS. I'm going to be talking about that a bit later on, of course. The Mirror, top Tories Russian oil millions. That's an exclusive. The Tories' top treasurer has been raking it in, allegedly from a firm still dealing with Vladimir Putin's
And there we go again.
Russia.
Yeah, supplying machinery and goods to the Russian oil industry, apparently. But, yes.
The Sunday People. Now it's time for Charles's truth. King in TV talks to break silence over Harry Rowe. Would you prefer that not to be on the front page?
But do you think this will happen? I mean, this would be fantastic if it does. So King Charles in talks to the BBC to do a kind of tell-all, reveal-all,
well, he's done it
to
before.
give his side of the story. Well, his ex-wife certainly did.
No, he did it too.
He did it. Oh, of course he did. Yeah. So look,
he did it first, in fact, as I recall. Did he not?
I'm not sure, but they both did.
What's your view on whether he should? I mean, on the one hand, we really want to hear what he's got to say, and actually, I would believe that anything that King Charles says is probably the truth, unlike his son and his daughter-in-law. So I think it would be fascinating, but I can't see how he'll do it. I mean, whatever happened to the kind of don't explain, don't complain thing?
She died.
Yeah, but I don't think that mantra dies with
I agree.
her, does it?
I think it would be amazing if he does do it.
I think it'd be fantastic.
Actually, to be fair, they're having to sit back and listen to all of this coming from across the pond and not being able to say anything. So, maybe he should. Maybe.
And do you know what I think it might do is neutralise. If there are another 4 fiction books coming from Harry in the next few years.
I love how you think they're fiction.
Yes, well, they absolutely are. Not very good fiction. But I would imagine this is a way preemptively of King Charles and the royal household kind of negating anything that comes out of those books in the next
danger, of course, the danger is that they just rile up the anti-monarchy and the Black Lives Matter and the woke and all of that.
They're pretty riled already.
They are, and it could just put fuel on that fire, I think.
Interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'd like to see it, frankly. So I think constitutionally no, but from an entertainment perspective, he's got to do it. Got to do it.
Yeah, but we...
Shame it's going to the BBC. It should be here. Anyway.
It should.
Yeah.
With Nadine.
And it is one of those...
Yes, Nadine Coruscant on a Friday with King Charles.
And it is one of those things, isn't it, about truth and the Queen, or the statement that came out of the palace last time, which was that recollections may differ. And I think that's the whole point, isn't it? That we've all been in families where you talk your truth, and it seems so ridiculously divergent.
Doesn't it come
from
back
the
down
other
to the point I just made? Who would you believe? I mean, honestly, given the choice between King Charles or under present circumstance, where we know that there were at least 37 mistruths in the Oprah interview with Harry and Meghan, I'd definitely back the King as the truth sayer over Harry and Meghan. Wouldn't
the truth sayer. You sound like a Viking.
Well, actually.
Now we come to The Observer. This is children seeking asylum in the UK threatened with violence and subjected to racist abuse by staff at a Home Office-run hotel. This is a whistleblower claiming this, and the headline is, "I saw children face bullying and racism at Asylum Hotel."
Isn't there some uncertainty here, though, over who are children and who are not? Given what's happened in the news over the last few days, where we've got a 21-year-old double murderer pretending to be a 14-year-old, we know that, by all accounts, those that are coming over in dinghies is predominantly young men of economic age. So one would imagine, if you join the dots, that the people that are professing to be children and being therefore bullied and going missing are probably in their early 20s and have gone off to work for criminal gangs.
Yeah. So, some of those, and
the majority, sure. I would say.
Well, we shall.
What I don't understand is, very easy to ascertain someone's age. You just do a hand. No, not even. It's simpler than that. You just X-ray their wrist.
Oh, really?
You just X-ray their wrist, and if their growth plate is still there, they're under 19.
So why aren't we doing that?
Exactly. Why aren't we?
Right, I've never had that before, because genuinely I had read that it was quite difficult to tell
really
whether somebody was younger than 18.
So growth plates, in boys and girls, close at around a certain time. Girls earlier than boys, which is why we're not so tall. And if it's still there, the growth plate, and it's very easy to see on an X-ray, then that person is most likely under 19.
Wow, OK. So if in doubt, government, that's what you should be doing.
Whether it's about consent and whether someone consents to an X-ray, I don't know.
Well,
they should. Well, if they're seeking asylum, you'd have thought that they'd have been perfectly happy.
We are living in a very odd world, Penny.
We are living in an odd world. We really are. And this is The Sun on Sunday. TV Helen's brawl terror. This is terrified Helen Skelton raced for cover when a glass bottle was thrown at her during a street brawl at 3 a.m. This was. Let me just have it. Put my glasses on so I can actually see what I'm saying here. The 39-year-old TV presenter out on the town with her Strictly pals, hid in an alley until police arrived. So that's on the front page.
I have a really soft spot for Helen Skelton, because I once got on a train first class with my 8-week-old baby, and the businessman who had the seat opposite me, looked horrified. And I said, "Oh, don't worry, she doesn't cry, she's really an amazing baby." And Helen Skelton was in the seat behind me, and she said, "Don't apologise for your baby."
Wow.
And then during the journey, because I was up to Doncaster, when I wanted to go to the loo, she just took over baby care.
Really?
So I really have a soft spot for Helen Skelton.
Oh, nice. Wow. I heard a great one on the train the other day when somebody was saying, somebody said quite loudly, I hope that baby doesn't start kicking off." And the mother, without actually missing a beat, who was reading a paper with the baby sort of here, just went, "Well, I'll make sure that she doesn't actually that when she goes into the care service, she doesn't look after you." Which I thought
that is very witty.
I have a feeling she might have said it before, because the way that it just came out, it was, as I said, it really was just a case of conversation over the top. Right, Russell, what have you got for us then?
Yes, so our conversation earlier, Penny, so we're trying to lighten the mood a little bit, aren't we?
Sorry about that, I am.
Well, no, I think it's a good shout, because, it seems that for weeks and months now, all of the news has been pretty negative, pretty dire.
Grim.
As Christo said this morning on his show, blood boiling, I think was the phrase that he used. And look, I think we all agree with that there's lots and lots of negativity and frustration. So, yeah, so let's look at some slightly more light-hearted stories, shall we? So, The Sun, page 19. This is a story which I'm laughing already. So this relates to prisons, but not in the same way that we've been talking about prisons over the last few days in terms of trans women being put in women's prisons. It's not that. This is the fact that In prisons across the country now, of course, they're trying to rehabilitate offenders towards the end of their sentence.
They should always have been trying to rehabilitate.
Well,
That was what they were supposed to be
big debate
doing.
about whether they can be, but anyway, let's not go there. Let's stick to the light-hearted stuff.
Okay, but I'm just saying that there has to be a rehabilitation aspect to this.
and there is
Otherwise, they
here.
just keep on going back in again.
And there
What
is
are they
here.
doing? Knitting?
No. This is much more practical. So this is teaching prisoners towards the end of their sentence how to be scaffolders. So they're teaching the scaffold trade. Some
like
bright
this.
spark realised, though, after a little while, though, that ladders and prisons are not particularly compatible.
And also scaffolding.
Yeah, no, but there's actually a comment here. This is
Like
very
the
much so.
chicken run.
But they've solved the kind of the conundrum by, instead of therefore having to bring ladders in,
No
say, look,
slats
you've
on
got to scale the ladder and therefore be a scaffolder. They've now decided that those prisoners that are involved in this are going to use virtual reality headsets instead, which obviously is not quite the same thing. But the funniest thing in this article is the quote from the training officer Henry Anafi, who says, almost I think with a straight face, for some reason prisoners don't like us bringing ladders inside, so we've had to come up with an alternative. The VR sets simulate being high up. So it's almost as if it hadn't dawned on them that taking a load of ladders and equipment for the purposes of perhaps aiding an escape were not a good idea.
I
in
would have
prisons.
liked to have seen that headline.
Yeah, but look, the serious...
I'd have liked to have seen the conversation where it suddenly dawned on them.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're going to do this, and then there's this. We're bringing the ladders.
Ladders, ladders.
Well, I wonder if they realised there's kind of 5 or 6 prisoners were escaping up a ladder over a wall or something. But the serious point is, look, isn't it good that we are educating and training people in prisons for later life? I think that's a great
It's really
thing.
good, and I think it links back to something we said yesterday, that actually we need now plumbers, chippies, and there aren't enough of them. So we could actually train up prisoners so that when they come out, they have a way of making money and they don't need to revert back to their old money-making schemes.
Yeah, but they wouldn't pass the criminal checks, would they, that most companies want in terms of those people
But they
that
can
ended
work
up
for
in your home?
themselves.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it depends what they're in for, surely.
I
It depends
suppose.
what they're
and
in
who,
for.
who decides what is
And
what
also-
triggers that level of seriousness or not?
So, you know, you've lost your positivity, Russell.
You've already lost
We've
your
got back into negativity.
We have.
We dragged
already.
ourselves back into
Yes, we
bleak,
have.
dark cloud stuff.
Yes,
Sorry about that.
because there are ways of doing these things,
Okay.
and let's move on.
Well,
to the
let's
next
move on. So this is a story that you
story.
picked out, actually, I think is great, which is the Express page 3.
It is.
The headline is, Great Scott, England invented the haggis. Now, I did quip earlier, I think England invented everything.
You did.
Everything and anything.
And I just said,
Internet, cars, I was going to say democracy and free speech, that's probably the Greeks, but, you know, we've done a reasonable job up to 2 or 3 years ago.
Greeks did quite a lot.
Yeah, of carrying that on. So yeah, this is the revelation that haggis, that well-known and well-worn Scottish dish, actually, according to food historians, was actually invented during the reign of Richard II in England and only adopted in Scotland about 4 years later because they were so poor it was all they could afford to eat. Sorry, Scotland. Yeah, that would appear to be true.
I like
so basically,
haggis.
England owns the
Do you
haggis legacy.
Do you like haggis?
I've only ever had it once. It's not something I would return to very quickly, I don't
Remind
think.
me what's in it. Does it say what's in
Well,
it? I
do
know
we want to do
it's-
that at this time of the morning when people are eating their toast and cornflakes
Yeah,
on a
it's
Sunday morning?
not brilliant.
Is it not
It's something to do
brilliant?
with cow stomachs, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, and was the first
Now you don't want to
word
talk about it.
is the 40, so it was haggis or HAGWS.
Mm-hmm.
First appeared in a Middle English recipe. Yes, as you say, the modern whiskey-soaked image has been manufactured owing more to romantic patriotism than historical reality. So,
And the great thing is this comes out as a story around the time of Burns Night, the whole Robert Burns thing. So it kind of scuppers those Scottish celebrations just at the right time, doesn't it?
well, it was made in
being
England from the
negative.
1420s.
Being tongue-in-cheek.
Yes, he is. There we go. And it's okay, we've got a ladder outside.
Yes, for me to escape there very quickly when the social media trolls start attacking the internet.
Can I just say, Edinburgh haggis maker McSween's said haggis is renowned as Scotland's dish largely due to Robert Burns, who made it famous. That's not to say that prior to Burns haggis wasn't eaten in England, but Scotland has done a better job of looking after it. I didn't hear of Shakespeare writing a poem about haggis. There we go.
Maybe he just didn't like it, and, you know, he would be justified, I
It's
think.
not very romantic, is it?
What, haggis?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you want to be taken out on a romantic
No,
date?
not really.
I like
with
the word
someone that
haggis,
asked
though.
you to have haggis?
And I like a bagpipe. What can I say?
Okay.
And a kilt.
Oh, do you know what? A man in a kilt with a finely turned calf is a very fine item, I would say.
Those socks are very smart.
It is. There's something
Aren't you
about it.
objectifying us poor men here, ladies?
Hopefully.
Please continue.
I think a woman in a kilt is a very fine thing.
Well, I
as
don't think
well.
I'm allowed to say that, am I?
What, women? No, most people are not allowed to say women anymore.
Women, or the fact that they look nice and beautiful. You can't pay compliments, otherwise you look like some predatory sex pet.
No, I think we said yesterday we're quite happy. We had a caller who said he was old-fashioned. And I said, I'm more than happy for doors to be open for me. To be. I don't know what's the word, for people to be chivalrous to me.
Yes,
I'm happy.
Exactly.
I did hear a story the other day about a young lady that said, I absolutely promote and advocate feminism, but I do still want my boyfriend to pay for all my meals and holidays.
Seems fair.
Does it? I think that's what they call a dichotomy. But anyway, that's the world we're getting. Next one.
Talking of manly men.
Actually, can I just...
Yes.
I've just got some breaking news. I'll just do this first. This is Steve Phillips has resigned as Chief Executive of the Welsh Rugby Union after allegations of sexist, racist and misogynistic behaviour within the governing body. The Performance Director, Nigel Walker, will step into the role on a temporary basis. The Welsh Rugby Union has already announced an external investigation into the organisation's culture and behaviour.
Well, someone say good on the basis that at least someone's taken some responsibility. It does seem that that's taken a week or 10 days for that to happen. It's a bit like our politicians, isn't it, when they're caught out at Nadine Zahawi.
Hanging on in there.
They then take a week or 10 days to resign. I don't think Nadine Zahawi has yet. Perhaps he should. Does it actually solve the problem within the Welsh Rugby Union Association? I'm not sure, because it's not just down to one person, is it? Sounds like it's an institutional culture, like it was in cricket.
I was just going to say, cricket, actually, they didn't. They actually just brought somebody in to overhaul it all,
Yeah, but you can't just get rid of one person and then that headline then solves all ills.
I agree.
You need to go and talk, but we need to start early about these conversations. These conversations need to start in school. There need to be discussions. There need to be...
Well, people need to be called out.
And people need to be called out. It comes back to this point, funny enough, when you were saying that, why are people in charge so reluctant to take responsibility? There is so often a kind of flannelling about that goes on.
Because our political leaders don't show us that
leadership in the first place. Yes.
Because they're the worst culprits for not taking responsibility.
Yes, exactly. Let us go on from haggis then to you have another story. I can't read your handwriting. What does that say there? Yeah,
this is also in the Daily Express. I think this is great. So this is, fans of James Bond will like this, the fact that, I think it's a Freedom of Information request, reveals that there obviously is such a thing as there are real spies, right? The whole MI5, MI6.
We do.
Real spies. It's not all fictitious.
No, we know that.
But there's also such a thing as, the gadget thing that is made much of on James Bond films. With Q, I think. Yes, this pen, and something happens. Well, apparently last year we spent as taxpayers and security agencies on our behalf £4 billion on what they call research and development.
40?
With £4 billion. £4 billion. So it's 4,000 million pounds.
But this is
on
research
gadgets,
and development.
Research. Yeah, but what they're saying here in the Express is that this also extends down to the kind of the tricks and the gadgets and the things that we would have seen in James Bond films. Yes, like cufflinks that can kill you and pens that can beam you up to a satellite somewhere in the distance.
Kilts that can fly.
Yeah, wow, what a great idea. Kilts that can fly.
And the point of a flying kilt?
Well, with someone in it.
Someone in it. Okay, sorry, I thought you meant...
Kilt parachute.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to look up, though.
I was going to say, you wouldn't want to look up.
No.
See, I thought you were going to say kilts that can fly and they join the satellites in the sky that make it even more difficult to see the stars. The thing about research and development, when we're talking about for spying purposes, is that often these things do filter down into other, into normal things, aren't they, that we would then buy, for example. I'm not talking about cufflinks that would kill, for example, but about camouflage. I was reading about camouflage and how, not necessarily that we would buy, but that would go into the Ministry of Defence, that they would find very useful. So these things are not...
They end up in the mainstream.
They end up in the mainstream, is what... Thank you for putting that in the shell of a nut, as I was flanneling about.
Yeah, and of course, look, again, serious point. I know I'm trying to be light-hearted here, but there are serious points to all these stories, is that if we're trying to compete, in inverted commas, with the Chinese and the Russians, who have a propensity to want to spy on us and bug ministers youngsters' phones in their cars and so on.
And our fridges.
Indeed. Then,
Apparently.
then we need to spend money to kind of keep ahead of that, really, don't we? Not necessarily, I guess, to spy on them in some tit-for-tat way, but I guess it's
to know how to
counter-espionage.
circumvent what they're doing.
Yes, to make sure that our fridges and microwaves are more benign than the Chinese would like them to be.
So is the Express complaining about the bill, or...?
No, really, it's just, this is funny, isn't it? I mean, it's...
What's the headline?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to buy. Instead of I expect you to die, that's a very well-known headline or very well-known strapline in a Bond film. No, Mr. Bond, I'm not going to do the voice, am I? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. So I expect you to buy, 4 billion quid's worth. 40 billion gadget bill, that's what you saw in the headline, is a total over a period of time. But last year alone, they spent 4 billion. It sounds like a lot of money, but I guess when it comes to our defence, most of us would say, well, yeah, sure, I'm sure that's probably justified.
Does it come up with anything in particular that we can look forward to in the future? See, I would love a flying carpet. Wouldn't that just be great?
A flying carpet.
What was I watching the other day?
With a man as
Aladdin,
handsome as
by the sounds of
Aladdin.
It sounds like it was.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a mashup. It was a mashup panto. That's what it was. A little mashup panto, and they had a flying carpet.
Yeah, there's no flying carpets in here. Synthetic biology. They talk about shark busting pellets. I mean, they come in handy, don't they? I suppose if you're on the beach somewhere. Flame-throwing bagpipes. Wow, you mentioned bagpipes, Penny Smith.
See, it's all coming together.
You work for MI5.
You could have a flame-throwing bagpipe which had a haggis just where the end of the flame was.
In case he got hungry.
What, to cook it?
Yes, cooking the haggis.
And a quick snack.
Flamed haggis.
Yeah, a rocket cigarette.
And chips in your sporran.
A rocket cigarette?
Rocket cigarette, so when you light it, so let's say I give you a cigarette and I light it for you and it blows your head off.
Oh, sorry, I thought
that
you
wasn't
meant...
as exciting as I thought it might be.
I thought it was you had the cigarette and then...
Turned
it turned into a rocket. Both of us going for the more pleasant aspect of this.
If only Harry and Meghan smoked. Anyway.
Russell. Harsh. I tell you what, just say something else just before I'm going to the break now. We don't want to leave them with that image, for goodness sake. No, don't tell me another story. We're going to a break, literally now, but I was just hoping that wasn't going to be the final one.
Go get a cup of coffee, everyone.
Yes, exactly. Back in a minute.